Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us David Owens, who is with MassMutual Financial Group. Welcome to the program, David.
Oh, thank you very much, Mike.
Hey, so get us started with telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what got you into this field of financial advising.
Well, Mike, I have sort of a circuitous route that I took into financial advising, and that comes with a bit of a unique story. In 1998, I began trading stock options just privately for my own account. And by 2005, I was trading stock options full-time for a living. However, I had some family circumstances that changed my course a bit, you might say. In 2004, my wife, Sunny, and I were raising 3 children together, and due to some health complications, she passed away and left me with these 3 young kids. Well, after an appropriate amount of grieving, I wound up getting married again to another woman who was a widow who also had 3 kids. So we got married. We blended our families. The 2 of us, our 6 kids, we literally were the Brady Bunch. And it's not quite like the TV show was. After a few years, it became evident that she struggled with depression. And we actually lost her to suicide a few years later. Yeah, and so here I was with 6 grieving children. We were all emotionally devastated. The course of depression takes some interesting twists and turns, which I would find out after Tiffany's passing, and I was financially devastated too. So I took a couple of years off work and began to rebuild my family emotionally and really work with my kids. Well, after a couple of years, I found myself in a unique situation. I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Trading stock options is great, and it makes money, but it seems like I should be providing something a little more valuable to the community than that. Mm-hmm. And that was when I actually discovered the value of cash value life insurance and the flexibility that it has, the different benefits that it offers. And the more I dug, the more I liked it, and that, led me to get deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, which ultimately led to a career in financial advising.
Yeah, that is quite the path, and I'm sure that when you use that in your business, it can fuel you to be more empathetic to clients you work with, and especially in the cash value life insurance, and you might be able to make some applications that way. And, I think that, not to sound cliche, but, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you can use those things in your life and maybe even in a small way to encourage others as you're working with them. I think that's a really admirable focus.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I've found that it's gratifying on both a personal level to help people improve their position and improve their preparation, while making an income for myself and my family as well.
Yeah, exactly. So when you mention cash value life insurance, I think people either A, don't know what that is, or B, think of it in the way back olden days misconceptions, because I would venture to say there are some misconceptions about cash value life insurance. But then on the other hand, I am certain that there's some really good benefits, meaning you want some life insurance benefits, but you also want some financial planning cash benefits as well. So can you speak to some of those points?
Certainly, Mike. Thanks for asking. There have been some regulation changes in the life insurance industry over the last 30 years or so. And it took, with government regulation and taxation changes back in 1988, it took cash value life insurance from something that was a great investment vehicle to something that was actually a very poor investment vehicle. And it took some of the insurance companies a little too long to adjust their model to the new taxation structures. And that really goes deep into the rabbit hole. But a number of those companies have made that adjustment. And cash value life insurance, and there are different types of those, can be a great investment. Now, what I do is design life insurance contracts to replace the conservative portion of an investment portfolio. And so what that means is, I perform a needs analysis, a protection needs analysis with my clients, as well as a thorough analysis of their investment and retirement portfolio. Now, the benefits in using cash value life insurance are that you have some guaranteed growth, but you've got some tremendous tax benefits as well. When structured properly, those withdrawals may not be subject to income taxation. One other thing to note is the type of company that somebody may use makes a big difference. There are stock companies, there are mutual companies, and so typically people who are trying to get cash value growth through a stock company, which is owned by stockholders, may be disappointed in their investment growth. When the stock company has a profit, they've got to pay dividends out to their stockholders. Now, a mutual company is a little bit different. It's owned by the policy owners themselves, so those dividends are actually paid to policy owners. And those investments tend to work out better over time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that these days, rather than making an assumption of, well, I've always heard or I, read this online, you should do a little bit of checking around. And then to your point about getting with the right provider and the right type of company. And yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I've heard it on both ways, but the way you explained that really clears that up. So what are some unique ways that you work with clients in the sense that is there someone that would come to you that has a specific need, be it, I'm getting ready to retire, or I'm just starting my career, or my kids are heading off to college. What are some specifics that you can really go deeper on and help a client?
That's a great question, Mike. Thanks for asking. And it can be a little bit challenging to answer. I always advise people, try not to take the canned advice. You may have heard life insurance is a bad investment, or you may have heard it's a good investment, or, whatever you've heard on any particular topic, just remember that that's a general statement and may or may not be right for your situation. So it's important to have that specific individual analysis. And sometimes life insurance is a good fit, sometimes it isn't. Specifically, one of the things that I'll do is help in college funding preparation. And so this tends to be families with younger kids. That is where we can usually be more efficient. I do quite a bit of education on the pros and cons of 529 plans that a lot of people like to stuff money into for college funding purposes. Now, typically, the families who do that are somewhat enamored with the benefits of a 529, but they don't understand some of the pitfalls until it's time to send their student off to college, and it's too late.
And can you? I'm sure there's 2 or 3 dozen pitfalls, but can you pick 1 or 2 that would be some main ones to talk about?
Certainly. One of the biggest pitfalls in 529 planning is that the money within that account will contribute to a family's expected family contribution. Now, the formula works like this. There's a cost of attendance for the school, And then there's a formula used to establish what's called the expected family contribution. That takes into account the family and the student's income and assets. And then hopefully there's a number left over. And according to the needs-based formula, that is the amount of money that a student is eligible for financial aid. Now, there's quite a bit more to that, and I do some advising and some instruction regarding ways to maximize that aid. But as far as 529s go, they increase that expected family contribution, which decreases the family's eligible aid number. That's one of the biggest pitfalls. And I would say another one is if your student winds up not attending college, now what are we going to do with that money? It essentially turns into an IRA. The owners, usually one of the parents, can't touch it until they're 59 and a half without an income tax penalty. And, then we've lost some of the tax benefits, the tax-exempt withdrawals that would have existed had that money been used for college.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm sure that a lot of people would think, well, my kid's going to go to college, that's just the way it is, but every day it happens where maybe they choose a trade school, and that's not, in fact, here's a question. My wife is a school teacher, and just last night we were talking about some of the kids that are starting back up to her school that are going to a local trade school for high school. But then when you think about that as in place of college, would a 529 plan fund be able to help pay for a trade school?
My understanding is that right now 529s do not help fund trade schools. They're appropriate only for the accredited schools and universities.
So while you might think your child is going to go to college, they might go on to further education, but it might be a trade school. And now all of a sudden, what have you done with your, or what are you going to do with that 529? So that's a good consideration. So in other words, let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. Let's have a nice, let's have some cash value life insurance. Let's have some 529, have a good balance. So that kind of goes along with, building up some money for college. Are there any ways that families can reduce college costs?
Certainly. One of the things that I'll counsel families is it's important to start with a student building their resume early in their high school career. Now, there are a couple of myths out there regarding college cost, and one of them is that the academics get the money and that it's basically a reward-based system. I'll have families tell me all the time my student is a 4.0 or my student is a 4.4 with AP classes and we've got such and such on the ACT or whatever it is. Therefore, I'm going to get a lot of money for college. And the thinking is a little bit wrong. The thinking is that the money that those students will get is a reward. Now, that is true to some extent. Schools will usually have an index score, and based on the student's index score, that they may be eligible for a certain amount of scholarship money. However, what's a little more true is any money that the schools give to the students in discounted tuitions or scholarships or grants or what have you is actually an investment. And so as we look at grades as a whole, the money that we receive is not an award, but rather an investment. And here's what the schools are looking for. They're looking for students who are, A, likely to become successful in their chosen profession, and B, likely to donate back to the school after graduation through the school's alumni association.
Wow.
And
how do you figure that if you're a school,
Well, it's amazing. The financial aid department, they're like insurance actuaries.
Yeah.
They know their numbers.
Yeah. And I've never heard that before.
They know, well, that's part of the reason I have a job. So,
yeah.
Thanks for saying that, Mike. They have a profile. And some of the things, what we'll do is we'll help the students leverage their strengths. and not just identifying, but really maximize those and showing their prospective colleges that they fit the profile. And so a couple of things that we'll look at: a student who's hardworking, a student who's intelligent. Now, it's not very politically correct to say, but on the whole, people who are intelligent tend to be a little more successful than people who struggle there. Mm-hmm. Now, while a student isn't given award money because of good grades or strong SAT or ACT scores, those can be indicators of being hardworking and being intelligent. AP classes or honors classes, IB classes, even if it means that a student may not get that 100% in that class, showing that they challenged themselves is highly valuable to schools. A person who challenges themselves in the real world is more likely to be successful. Students who are focused. So one of the biggest flaws that I see in students when they come into my office is the student has already picked their school, but they don't know what they're studying. Well, a student who first understands what they're going to study can then make an intelligent decision on which school they should attend based on their course of study, and can then put together a pretty nice proposal for why a student may attend a particular school. So a student who's that focused tends to be more successful in the adult world than students who just like the football team. And kind of the last big piece is students who are charitable. We have a number of different avenues to show that a student's likely to become successful. We really have only one to show that they're charitable, which was the second part of our investment formula, and that's community service. A lot of schools will offer a letter in community service, and I highly recommend to students that they visit with their counselor, find out what the requirements are, and go ahead and get that letter. Mm-hmm. Students who get back to their communities now get back to their colleges later.
Ooh, that's a good point. And if if A plus B equals C, you want to do that, number one, as a standalone. It's a good thing anyway to help your community and to serve and give. But if that is going to go on your college application to help you look good to your college, and you know that the colleges tend to look for those indicators as maybe a future indicator of giving back to the Alumni Association, and maybe you're going to get a little extra aid, then now is the time to be doing that. That's a really good plan.
Absolutely. And really you really can't start early enough.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, could you start doing these types of things at 10, 12, 14? Well, I'll bet you some school would love to see that you have had that long history of, philanthropic and charity and serving and helping, and so that just goes again to character. And I think that you can't start early enough.
It absolutely does, and the character part is definitely important. It's valuable to have those types of students and those types of people in our community. One of the most overlooked things that I'll see on college applications is a good letter of recommendation. Mm-hmm. And so for those students who have been involved in a particular philanthropic organization for years, even before high school, to get a letter that really outlines that type of service from the leader or director of that organization, that letter is gold.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Hey, so let's wrap up with letting people know how they could get in touch with you best to learn more, maybe ask some questions about how you could help them.
Certainly. My direct office line is 303-300-4317. I do encourage people to connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's linkedin.com/n/financial counselor. And finally, email works just fine as well. That's David Owens at financialguide.com.
Excellent. Well, David, it was so wonderful getting to know you and learning more about your business today. Thank you for your time.
Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.